My mother-in-law humiliated me in front of our entire family. So I made sure their fortune, reputation, and freedom vanished before the week was over. My name is Claire. I'm 29. At a Sunday dinner, I accidentally tipped over a glass of red wine onto my mother-in-law's designer dress. She stood up, slapped me across the face so hard my ears rang, then yanked me by the hair and shoved me out the front door. Not one person spoke. My husband, her son, leaned against the wall with a smirk. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply walked away into the dark. But 72 hours later, on the most important night of their fake empire, I returned. And what I did next didn't just hurt them. It erased everything they'd stolen. Before I tell you what happened next, hit like and subscribe to Winds of Thought. And drop your country in the comments so the algorithm knows where to send this story. Ready? Let's walk into the truth. That evening began like any other Sunday in that house. I had been married into the Harrison family for 14 months. On the surface, they were gold. A wealthy, respected dynasty known across the state for their massive charity foundation. They didn't just write checks. They ran entire aid programs. Food drives, school builds, disaster relief. To the outside world, the Harrisons were saints. Their name opened doors. Politicians posed with them. News crews followed their galas. My mother-in-law humiliated me in front of our entire family. So I made sure their fortune, reputation, and freedom vanished before the week was over. I have a degree in nonprofit management, so naturally I volunteered to help run their events. At first, it was simple. Guest lists, donation ledgers, scheduling photo ops. Slowly, they trusted me with more. I felt proud, like I'd married into a family that actually changed lives. Then came that Sunday. We were eating in the formal dining room. No press, no cameras, just relatives who already knew how to bow their heads around Margaret, my mother-in-law. She sat at the head of the table, diamond bracelet catching the chandelier light. I was pouring wine. My heel caught the rug edge. The glass tilted. Just a few ounces of Merlot splashed onto her ivory dress. The room went dead silent. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. I didn't finish. Her hand came across my cheek like a whip. I staggered. Before I could breathe, her fingers twisted into my hair. "You clumsy little fool," she hissed. She dragged me toward the front door, kicked my ankles out from under me, and shoved me onto the cold porch. The last thing I saw through the glass panel? My husband, Daniel, standing inside with his arms crossed, smiling. The door locked behind me. I stood there in the dark. My cheek throbbed. My scalp burned. I didn't cry. Something else happened. Something colder. For 14 months, I had tried to earn their love. I organized their galas. I defended them to my own family. And in 5 seconds, they showed me exactly what I was worth. You don't lose family. You discover who they really are. I walked home that night, 2 miles. No phone calls from Daniel, no texts, nothing. The next morning, I went back to the foundation office like nothing had happened, because I had already started watching. Here's what I had noticed over the previous 6 months. The Harrisons didn't run a charity. They ran a camera crew. Every event was staged. They'd hand a struggling mother a check, pose for photos, then take the check back once the reporter left. I saw it myself. An old man named Eugene. They gave him a new wheelchair on camera. The moment filming stopped, Margaret snapped, "Don't expect another. You're not our poster child forever." I tried to talk to Daniel about it one night. I said, "This feels wrong." He laughed. "That's how wealth works, Claire. Image is the product." I tried to speak to Margaret the next week. She didn't let me finish. "You're here to organize files, not think," she said. So I stopped talking, and I started collecting. I handled their paperwork. I saw the donation ledgers versus the expense reports. Millions came in from corporate sponsors. Where did it go? New cars, a second vacation home, private school fees for cousins who didn't need help. I began quietly saving copies, spreadsheets, receipts, internal emails, and I recorded audio on my phone during their off-camera moments. Margaret sneering at a homeless veteran, Daniel laughing about how useful poor people were for tax write-offs. I didn't plan revenge, not then. I kept the folder because deep down, I still hoped they would change. But after that Sunday, the slap, the hair pull, the smiling husband, hope died. I sat alone in my apartment with the folder open on my laptop. 47 files. Dates, names, numbers, videos. And then I remembered. Friday night was their biggest event of the year, the Harrison Hope Gala. Every major donor, every corporate partner, every news camera in the city. I closed the laptop and smiled for the first time in 3 days. Not a happy smile, a quiet one, because I knew exactly what to do. Friday arrived faster than I expected. The venue was a glass convention center downtown. Crystal chandeliers, string quartet, 300 guests in evening wear. Margaret glowed in a ruby gown. Daniel shook hands like a future senator. The stage was set with a giant screen displaying their slogan, Harrison Family Foundation, Building Hope. I walked in through the service entrance, black dress, hair down. No one stopped me. I still had my volunteer credentials. I stood at the back for 10 minutes, watching them perform. Margaret kissing a donor's wife on both cheeks, Daniel telling a reporter, "We give until it hurts." Then I walked to the AV booth. The technician recognized me. "Claire, what are you?" I handed him a flash drive. "The keynote presentation," I said calmly. "Margaret asked me to update the slides last minute." He nodded and plugged it in. I took my place near the stage. At 8 p.m., Margaret stepped to the podium. Soft music faded. She smiled her television smile. "Welcome to the Harrison Hope Gala. Tonight, we celebrate how far love can go when we work together." The screen behind her flickered. She paused. Then the first video played. It wasn't their polished sizzle reel. It was my footage. Margaret, off camera, shoving a food box at a single mother. "Take it and leave. We have real donors coming." The crowd gasped. Margaret spun toward the screen, her face draining white. Then another clip. Daniel in the office, laughing. "These people would be nothing without our name." The room erupted. People stood, phones raised. A donor shouted, "What is this?" I stepped forward from the crowd, not running, not hiding, walking slowly toward the stage. Margaret saw me. Her composure cracked. "You," she whispered. I took the microphone from the podium. My hand was steady. "My name is Claire," I said. "I'm Daniel's wife. For 14 months, I watched this family steal from the poor and lie to all of you." I turned to the screen. But don't take my word for it. Documents appeared. Bank transfers. Fake expense reports. A $200,000 administrative fee that paid for Margaret's kitchen renovation. Line by line. The truth was ugly and undeniable. Some truths don't need a megaphone, just a screen and a silent witness. Daniel rushed the stage. "Turn it off!" he screamed at the technician. The tech looked at me. I nodded. He unplugged everything. But it was too late. The damage was already viral. Phones had recorded everything. Within an hour, the first donor called his lawyer. Within 3 hours, the local news ran a special report. Within 24 hours, the state attorney general announced an investigation. I gave them my folder, all 47 files. What happened next wasn't dramatic. It was slow, quiet, and final. The Harrison Foundation was frozen. Corporate partners fled. The family mansion went up for sale. Margaret was charged with fraud and embezzlement. Daniel was charged as an accessory. He knew and he profited. Their trial lasted 2 weeks. I sat in the back row every day, not out of revenge, but out of duty. The families they had exploited deserved a witness. On the final day, the judge read the sentence. 6 years for Margaret, 3 for Daniel. Restitution of nearly $4 million. Not that they had it anymore. As they led Daniel past me in handcuffs, he stopped. His eyes were red. "Claire," he said, voice cracking. "I'm sorry." I looked at him for a long second. Then I turned and walked out into the sunshine. I don't hate them now. Hate would mean they still matter. They don't. What I feel is something simpler. Peace. Because I didn't destroy the Harrisons. They built their own cage, brick by brick, lie by lie. I just held up a mirror. If you made it to the end, you're the kind of person who values truth over comfort. Hit like on this video. It tells YouTube to share this story with more people who need to hear it. And don't forget, you're watching Winds of Thought.